Hi everyone, thanks for coming to watch the video. Today I want to talk to you about some of the basics of soccer. Hopefully this is some of the stuff that you already know for the most part, but hopefully there's some good reminders and maybe some new information in here as well for you. Today we're talking about our defensive line and where they should be on the field. As we're moving up and down the field, where should our defensive line be drawn? Before we do, just a quick word about formation here. This is our formation here that we start with our 05 team. We have a 3-3-2 formation. That means we have 3 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 2 forwards. Our 06 team, they have a little bit different formation here with that diamond midfield, but everything is going to apply today to them as well. Now we're going to be talking about where this defensive line should be in relation to our field, and we have 3 parts of the field, 3 thirds as we call them. We have the attacking third, the middle third, and the defensive third. So we're going to look at where we should be in each of these when the ball is in each of those thirds as a defensive line. So the first thing we'll look at is where we should be when the ball's in the attacking third. It's way up here. It really doesn't matter actually if we have possession or if the other team has possession. Anytime the ball is in the attacking third, we need to have a high defensive line. Our defenders don't do us any good way back here, so we're going to push way up all the way to the halfway line. And we want a nice straight line across that halfway line. Anytime the ball is in the offensive third, in the attacking third up there. Here we see what it looks like with all the other players involved as well. It really doesn't make any difference. Anytime the ball's in this attacking third, we want to be right on that line in a nice straight up and down line. Now if this forward decides he wants to creep back here and get open for a pass, are we worried about him? No, because he's offsides right now, right? However, we do have to remember to keep that line nice and straight, because if this forward comes up here and maybe the right back's thinking, oh, I should cover them, and drops back a little bit, now we've lost that nice straight up and down line that we had, and instead this forward now has some room to work. So if this forward can make a run across here, if they manage to get the ball, look at what happens with that open forward. He has a free run to goal, which is why we have to keep a nice straight line on the half line anytime that ball's in the attacking third. Now if the ball makes its way to the middle third, we need to think a little more. We just can't run up to the line anymore. Instead we have to make some decisions, and that decision at this point should be about 10 or 15 yards back of the first defender right here. So if someone's on the ball right there, we're going to come about 15, maybe 10 yards behind them, and that's where we're going to form our line. The same idea, nice straight up and down line, about 15 yards behind the ball. And again, it doesn't really matter if they have possession or if we have possession. About 15 yards behind that first defender or behind the ball is what we're looking at. And here we see it with the other players involved. Again, it doesn't really matter. Same thing. When that ball gets anywhere in this middle third, we're going to be playing 10 or 15 yards behind. So if we drop back here, if this attacking midfielder's coming up, we're going to drop about 10 or 15 yards back of that ball and maintain a nice straight line up and down in the middle third of the field. Again, same problem. If you have one person playing back, right, that creates lots of space to work with and run into, which is why we have to operate as a unit and work in one nice straight up and down line. Now when the ball gets in the defensive third of the field, we have to start thinking a little differently again, because suddenly we're in a little bit of danger, right? This player could easily take a shot at this point and possibly score a goal. So instead of 15 yards back, we're looking at 5 to 10 yards back of the first defender or the ball itself, right? So we're right behind that first defender, and again, we're going to stick with this nice straight line in relation one to another. We want our right back, our center back, and our left back always in line with each other. And I say behind the first defender or the ball because if they have the ball, we this guy becomes the first defender, right? He's the one applying pressure right there. So we want to be about 5 to 10 yards back from that first defender. However, if we have the ball, we want to be about 10 or 15 yards, or sorry, 5 or 10 yards back from the ball itself. You can see it here with all the players on the field. It doesn't change our position. We're still right back of that first defender, 5 to 10 yards in a nice straight line, having a good shape. I do want to take a second to talk about shape, because all throughout all of this movement back and forth across the field, I hope you've noticed that we've maintained this same basic 3-3-2 shape there. And in fact, we still maintain all of those nice passing triangles all throughout the field. No matter where we're at, if we maintain our shape, if we keep our 3-3-2 formation, that's a goofy triangle, then we'll have those triangles available to have nice, good open passes across the field. The main point for this first section is that as we have the ball going up and down the field, back and forth across this entire field, we should see our defenders also moving back and forth across the field. So there should always be back and forth movement from these three players. We should never see them static. They should always be moving. However, we do know that there is more to defending than just moving backwards and forwards, right? That would get a little bit boring if that's all we did. In fact, like this right back right here is kind of responsible for covering like this whole section of the field, right? And he can't do that if he's just going back and forth. Instead, we have also side to side movement. So that's our next thing that we want to talk about when you're moving side to side or inside and outside as a defender. Now there are two main reasons for side to side movement, and the first one we're going to talk about is possession. Who has possession of the ball really determines where we should be as a defensive line on the field. So in the attacking third, if the other team has possession of the ball, anytime the other team has possession, we want to come in or be narrow, right? Nice and skinny anytime the other team has possession. However, if we have possession, we're getting nice and wide. Notice since the ball's in the attacking third over here, we're all the way up on that middle line, and it just depends on who has possession, if we're going narrow, or when we have possession, if we go wide. And the same thing is true in the middle third of the field. If the other team has possession, we want to be nice and narrow, nice and skinny, so that we can be prepared from attacks from any angle. However, if we have possession, we want to be nice and wide to create some larger triangles to open up the field and really create some nice open passing lanes to move that ball around on the field. Now in the defensive third, when we're all the way back and they're trying to score a goal, it's a little bit different. If they have possession, yeah, we still stay narrow. We want to keep it narrow anytime they have possession. However, if we get possession, if our midfielder tackles the ball here and wins possession, we're going to stay narrow in the defensive third, because this is still kind of a dangerous situation. If they get the ball back and make a quick recovery, we want to be ready for that, so we're going to stay narrow. Now the exception is if you as a defender get the ball, you're going to want to go wide. Now whether that means you're going to send the ball wide and stay where you're at, that's okay. But if you have the ball, you're going to want to take the ball wide all the time, right? So stay narrow as a defender in the defensive third unless you have the ball, and then of course take that ball wide and get it away from our goal as quickly as you can. So basically when it comes to narrow or wide, it really all comes down to possession. If we have the ball, we have the ball, we're going to get wide, right? However, if we don't have the ball, if the other team has the ball, we need to be narrow, right? Anytime we have the ball, get wide. Anytime we don't have the ball, we should be nice and narrow, nice and skinny, right? And of course, the exception is when it's in our defensive third, we just want to stay skinny as much as possible to prevent as many goals as possible. And the last topic I want to talk about today, in addition to moving side to side with possession to make ourselves wide or narrow, is shifting. This is shifting either with the ball or for a couple other reasons that we'll talk about here in a minute. And shifting means not that just our outside backs go wide or narrow, but our whole back line is going to move up or down, side to side according to where the ball is. Now, if the ball's right in the center, of course we want our center back to be right behind that ball, and our left back and right back on their sides, nice and narrow, ready to stop it. However, if this player brings the ball wide, right, we have to compensate for that. We have to shift. So our entire back line is going to shift over to cover that. Notice how they still stay nice and narrow when the other team has the ball. If we regain possession, we can start to get wider here. However, since the possession is over on the left-hand side of the ball, we're still shifted over to the left. Same would be true if the ball shifted over to this other side. Our right back would shift all the way over, our center back would shift, and our left back would shift. If we had possession, we'd be nice and wide with that. If the other team had possession, we would shift and be nice and narrow, right? Narrow when they have possession, wide when we have the possession, and as a line, we're always shifting all the way across the field to make sure we're covering that possession. Now, this is the same if it's in the attacking third, the middle third, or the defensive third. We should be shifting with the ball. So if we're way back here in the defensive third and the other team has the ball there, right? If they're right in the middle, we're right in the middle. However, if they're shifting over, we're shifting over as well. Now, let's say they had a player way over here. Are we worried about that player? Yeah, a little bit, right? But we don't want to go all the way over and cover that, because even if they hit a pass all the way across over here, this person is pretty fast. By the time that ball travels all the way across this whole field, our right back can definitely get right here and get back in position, as well as our other two backs can shift over as well. So shifting with the ball side to side is the next movement that we want to see. In addition to shifting to cover the ball, we're also going to shift to cover players, so we have to watch out for that as well. For example, if this right back gets a pass and maybe they decide to go up with that pass, our center back and our right back, sorry, that ball escaped. Our center back and our right back are going to have to shift quite a bit. Now, normally this right back wouldn't go over the halfway line, but they might even have to shift a little more to make sure that we have that left back covered. Now, if we have a defensive center midfielder, they might drop back to cover that, and then we can regain our shape as well. But if we don't, if everyone else is pushing forward, we have to shift to cover that ball as it goes up the side. And the same is true for throw-ins. I know a lot of our backs are taking throw-ins, so if a right back or a left back takes the throw-in, our other two backs have to shift over to cover for them. All right, that's pretty much it for our review today. Basically, it all comes down to that our three defenders should be moving back and forth across the field, front and back across the field. There should be a lot more movement than we've been seeing. Anytime the ball's in the attacking third, we should be here on the middle. Anytime that the ball's moving this direction, we should be moving this direction as well. Right? We should be moving with the ball. We should be getting narrow, getting compact, or getting wide depending on possession, and we should be shifting back and forth to cover. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you at practice. Good luck.